Hi, I'm Sean,
I'm
and
Rhonda.
we want to talk about taking out the marital trash. So, what is involved when you're needing to get rid of something that's contaminating the marriage?
So, when we talk about taking out marital trash, we do have another video all about what is marital trash. So, just to summarize, marital trash is those things in our marriage that hinder us from going deeper. We need to deal with our conflict. We need to deal with our picture, his picture, her picture, to come up with a we in our marriage. So we're going to talk now about how to have the conversation to take out marital trash.
So, first of all, you want to plan a private meeting together and limit the amount of time to about 30 minutes and do that twice a week.
So you want to be able to count on, I know when we're going to talk about this, but I also know how we're going to do it so that it doesn't explode out of control.
Yeah. So before the meeting, individually, you want to identify and list what's present or missing in the relationship.
What's causing relational discomfort, distress, disconnect, distance for you?
What happens that causes you to escalate or close? What makes you look for the exit sign?
And let's add, this is a private list. Don't show this to your
Right,
spouse. It could
right.
be overwhelming.
So, what causes you to feel any negative emotion?
You might feel rejected, disrespected, unloved, invalidated, dismissed, unappreciated, devalued.
Defensive, withdrawn, silenced, minimized, afraid, overwhelmed, frustrated, angry, sad, anxious, or lonely. That's a big list.
And there's a lot more.
Right,
But
right.
this might get you started.
Okay. So why do you feel that way? What's the dominating thought that's feeding that feeling?
What caused you to respond negatively to your spouse in your last argument or conflict?
Yeah. What is your spouse communicating verbally and non-verbally, and what does that mean to you?
And we want to say real quick, we communicate non-verbally.
That's
We
right.
can't say, well, all I said was, but our non-verbal said a lot more.
Yeah, maybe you rolled your eyes.
Yeah, and you communicated.
All right. So, what is that environment? What environment is created for you when those things happen?
So take this information, list it, prioritize it, and pick the top two. Come up with a one sentence request for your spouse to make an adjustment for you. That could look like, would you please do or not do blank for me?
Right. And then you want to come up with a couple of vulnerable feelings or phrases to help your spouse understand what it feels like to be you when that incident happens or doesn't happen.
And we could go on and on. We could share all of our feelings, but maybe the relationship or communication level doesn't support that.
That's why you're limiting
That's
it
why
to
we're
two.
limiting.
Right. So during the time that you're meeting, you want to have a humble and flexible attitude, a servant's heart.
Allow your spouse to have a different experience and perspective from you.
You want to decide which role you're in. Are you the speaker who's bringing up an issue, or are you the listener who's hearing your spouse's issue?
And we want to stay in our role. We don't want the listener flipping roles. Well, if you knew this, you wouldn't feel that way. If you understood, no, this is not a moment to understand the listener. This is a moment to understand the speaker.
So the speaker is going to share a request for a change in one sentence.
The listener is going to restate or reflect back that request as is with no embellishments.
The speaker is going to share in one sentence with two vulnerable feelings, words, or phrases.
When this happens, I feel blank and blank.
And the listener then is going to apologize and empathize with their request and their feelings that they experienced.
So we want to make a plan. How may the speaker let the listener know when this happens again or when it doesn't happen, as a reminder of this conversation we just had and our agreed upon adjustment? Make it brief.
Right. So if, for example, that thing reoccurs again, then they're just going to say, "Hey," and use their spouse's words to make them aware that that reoccurred.
This is a little tool you can pull out in the moment in everyday life.
So whenever your spouse uses those agreed upon words for requesting an adjustment, you just make an apology and make that adjustment.
It's not a matter of you sinned, you did some horrible thing, but there is something that may have a tag of negative meaning for your spouse, and we want to avoid those and approach differently. If you ask your spouse to make an adjustment, for example, would you please speak softly to me? And say the spouse doesn't give the requested adjustment. Maybe they're too escalated and they just can't seem to rein it in at that moment. Politely exit the conversation so it doesn't escalate. This is respecting the relationship. Maybe you can come back to it later.
And it causes a problem when we can't share our experience with our spouse, or we don't hear in a respectful or polite way.
We don't want to get defensive about our spouse's request because that's the way our spouse is experiencing this. It's not about us in that moment. It's about our spouse.
Right. And we don't want to hear it as they're blaming or accusing me, but more they're sharing their experience when these things happen, and see this is a pathway for growth in our relationship.
Now, definitely the spouse can share better.
Yeah.
And we want to do that. We need to
Right.
be gently sharing so that we don't come across in these bad ways.
And thanking your spouse for sharing that information, even if it's an ouch moment for you. You want to validate your spouse's experience.
We don't have to agree to connect, but we definitely want to connect.
This is something to help you get started developing a habit of talking about important issues for each other.